Alright, so a good act does not wash out the bad, nor the bad the good. So, this is going to be my video. It's going to be another rant, basically, about Game of Thrones Season 8, and really just the past 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. So, has Game of Thrones been dumbed down for the masses? In my own personal opinion, yes, it has been. And there's been a lot of backlash about Season 8 of Game of Thrones, but I don't think a lot of people are really getting to the heart of the issue. Not a lot of people are addressing what I think is the actual heart of the issue. And what it comes down to is the title Game of Thrones and what Game of Thrones is supposed to be. I mean, it's a complex show, and it's kind of taken on a life of its own, like all these YouTubers and stuff talking about it and stuff. It's based on the novels, but it's about the Game of Thrones, which is a real life thing. It's like politics and who rules over us and stuff. And this is going to be kind of a deep video, so if you're not into conspiracy theories, you might as well just leave the video right now because we're going deep. So yeah, I mean, I think it's been dumbed down for the masses because the real rulers of this nation and the rulers of the world, they don't want the Goy's Guide to the Game of Thrones. They don't want that. Yeah, that's not in their best interest. And the people that run HBO are subservient to their masters, the people that actually run shit and are ruling the world, like the Rothschilds and the Federal Reserve System. Okay, so, and it's just, a humble coincidence that David Benioff's dad is on the Federal Reserve Board. Don't worry about that. Yeah, that's nothing. Anyway, so the way I see it is he basically just got the orders from the higher-ups, probably after Season 4, to dumb it down, and boy did he. Oh boy did they. They dumbed it down, and they were like, yes sir, I'm gonna do it. And they were probably telling him stuff like, you do what you're told, and you'll have a successful career. And that's exactly what happened. They dumbed down the show, because a lot of us, myself included, were naive enough to think, because I really got into Game of Thrones around Season 4, and at that point, I was thinking it was taking off. I thought it was just then picking up momentum, and it was going to become better and better. Season 5 and Season 6 could have been so good, but it just dropped off. That's when the show really tanked, but they led me on, because I thought, well, they had the one mess-up season because they had some, difficulties adjusting because they didn't have the source material anymore. Even though they really did, because they could have done much more with the Dance with Dragons. And I don't think that they messed up just because they're idiots. Most people are just thinking, well, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss are idiots, and then they just screwed up. It goes deeper than that. Are they out of touch to a certain degree? Yes. Were they picked for this job to begin with because of who they are and because of the product that they knew they would get from these guys? Yes. But at the end of the day, the whole show was dumbed down. You have to understand that, it's like, have you seen that scene with when Tywin is talking to Cersei in Season 4 about the nation's debt, the Seven Kingdoms debt, and how he doesn't have any more gold, and the whole Iron Bank plot line, which obviously that plot line was really dumbed down, and that could have been a really complex plot line. And I think in the books, George R. R. Martin's books, it will be much more complex. So that whole plot line was really, they dialed that back a whole hell of a lot. And what else do we got? So there's a lot. The show is basically, in my eyes, about wisdom, and there's a lot of occult knowledge and stuff in it. And they kind of just, they threw that out the window because the season 5 Bran plotline, which they completely, he wasn't even in season 5, so don't even act like Bran was like the most important character the whole time, and like we were planning to have him become the king at the end the whole time, even though he's not even in season 5. That doesn't make any sense. So if they made the Bran plotline the way it's supposed to be, the way it's going to be in the books, it's going to be deep, because it's going to be about occult knowledge and stuff. And if you've seen some of Preston Jacobs' old videos, or some other people have speculated this, like, he's doing sketchy shit like drinking blood and like maybe eating human flesh, and the effects that that kind of stuff might happen, or might have on those kind of psychic abilities and things like that. Which I don't know anything about that, but I'm just saying that's some kind of dark occult knowledge. They think that, we think that people like the Rothschilds and having eyes wide shut parties, possibly might be doing stuff like that. But we really don't know. But that whole thing was nixed from the show. It was very much dumbed down, and it wasn't dumbed down like a little bit. It was dumbed down from like, they took it down like, if season 1 through 4 was like at a level 8, they took it down to like a level 2, and and each season after season, I was like, oh, it's gonna get better, it's gonna get better, and I was like, oh, they're taking 2 years to make season 8. They're gonna give us a good ending. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be like a movie. And I was naive enough, and they let us on to think that they were actually going to do a good job, and they didn't. They played us all for fools, and that's what we deserve, basically. They had a lot of people watch it, but it was dumbed down for the masses, because they didn't want it to be an intricate plot line. Like, if they would have made like an intricate plot line of like Daenerys and Jon having like the struggles, the weight of the crown, and like the struggles of being in power, and how they have to make hard decisions and stuff. They don't want a plot like that, because then people will catch on to like, this is what it's actually like to be like a leader of men, and like be a ruler over people. And yeah, I think that like our modern way of governing is much more like feudalism than people might speculate, or people might think. Because basically, if you're a billionaire, you're basically like a feudal lord at that point. At least that's the way I see it, and that's the way it is, basically. And when you're in those positions of power, you have to make hard decisions that people with weaker willpowers wouldn't understand or wouldn't get. But you have to make decisions for large groups of people, which it's basically like they say in The Dark Knight: you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. Because if you get into the position of power, power is evil. They've said that in the show before too. Yeah, once you get into a high-ranking position, you become the king of Westeros or queen of Westeros, you get to a point where you have to make tough decisions. But I don't mean, like, Daenerys burning all those people. That was not logical. There was no logic in that. It was just nonsense. But if they would have made it in a more compelling manner, it just would have been, it would have caused too much of an uproar. If, like, people like me and other YouTubers would have made Game of Thrones like what we speculated it should have been like, the actual story, how intelligent it should have been, more about, like, wisdom and better battle strategy and just much more complex plot lines, more developed characters, and it just would have been too much. I mean, that kind of stuff, could start revolutions and stuff, and, the rulers of this nation don't want that. But that's just my 2 cents of it. Thanks for watching my video. Stay woke, guys.